trying to trying to study the underserved population of students. Could you tell us what is the underserved and what really are you trying to find out about this population?
Sure. So first, Barton, thank you for having me today. I'm very excited to talk about my research. I kind of through my own experiences growing up and also just working at Fordham University currently, I saw what was happening, in 2020 with the Artsakh wars and the lack of administrative response to kind of what was going on. And we all know 2020 was, a very kind of busy time in the media with COVID and with the election, but kind of seeing the outreach that's sent to students with some of the other current events happening right now, it was kind of this frustrating moment of, what about the Armenians? We have to keep advocating for ourselves. No one is advocating for us. So at the conclusion of the war, and my supervisor at the time knew what was going on just because I had been telling my staff and the people that I work with kind of the current events in Armenia. And so I worked with our counseling and psychological services to put together kind of a support group for anyone who identified as Armenian American, to have that space to kind of just have a safe space to talk about their feelings and what was going on and their struggles, really just trying to form a community. So that was right before I actually applied to my PhD program. And so, as an Armenian American, I feel like every opportunity that I have, I'm talking about how I'm Armenian, I'm talking about the Armenian genocide, I'm talking about these historical events because, growing up, it wasn't really something that came up in school for me. It came up in one class under the context of World War I, which I think, is not something that necessarily everyone has. So, really just trying to use the platform that I have with my dissertation to bring attention to these students and just kind of being this like, hey, we're here, we have these needs, we're going through a lot as a community right now, so don't forget about us.
You've been in the Armenian community with all the schools and cultural programs, etc. What really influenced you? What drew you to these organizations, to these activities in the community?
So, I will say, growing up in Saturday school at the Church of the Holy Martyrs, it was not something that I went to by choice. My parents forced me. Quite frankly, my parents, even talking about my dissertation topic now with my parents, my mom is like, where did you get this kind of excitement about this? Like, we had to bribe you to go to Saturday school. But growing up in Holy Martyrs, the high bar dance group was starting at the time as well. And so I grew up doing ballet and tap, and my parents put me in dance classes because I'm an only child, so to interact with other children of my age. So I was really drawn to the high bar dance group to just kind of because I enjoy dancing. And then as I got older, I went to Hariman. Again, that was something that my parents kind of were like, okay, you have to do this. You graduated Saturday school. This is the next step. And the Antrani Dance Ensemble was also kind of the next step for me after being in high bar. So it was something I really enjoyed doing. Unfortunately, with COVID, kind of everything was paused for a little bit. So for me, it was really kind of twofold because for me, it's something that I enjoy. I enjoy dancing. And for me, it was also a way to connect to my cultural identity and kind of as a way to continue, our cultures and our traditions through something that I really enjoyed.
For whatever reasons, whatever you find out in this research, which organization is to take it a step forward?
I'm really hoping that colleges and universities and student affairs professionals take this information and kind of, because my master's is in college student affairs, so working within higher education. So I'm really hoping that student affairs practitioners will see, okay, this is, a group of students that exists on our college campuses. Maybe there are other minority, cultural minority populations that we're kind of overlooking, and what else is going on in the world. It's not just like, a lot of statements that are put out there sometimes are politically motivated, and what are the interests of the university. So just really trying to shed light on this population of students, not just being like, and to use some of the research that I've found already, a lot of the researchers will argue that because Armenians pass as white, a lot of those, we're kind of overlooked as a community because we're just white and we're not a minority kind of racially. But culturally, I would argue that we are kind of a minority.
Is there any Armenian institution, organization that supervises or checks on Armenian student kids?
I don't know how active it is. I know that there are more like national, the Armenian Student Association United. I don't know necessarily how active that is. I've tried to find a little bit more research about Armenian student associations and kind of their founding and their origin, but I haven't gotten to that point in my research just yet.
You know, every time we sit with friends, every single organization and every single individual speaks about the youth.
Yes.
And the youth we prepare tomorrow, which is the third generation maybe, or fourth generation. If we secure the third generation, we will more or less have achieved in securing the fourth generation somehow. So the work we do now will pay off in the next generation. My question is, who is to do the work? Is enough being done to hold on to the younger generation within the community, or is it just if it happens, it happens, if it does not, it does not?
From what I've seen, it kind of is just at the mercy of the students, right? Because, even at Fordham University, again, a couple of years ago during the wars in 2020, there was I don't know how strong of a community it was, but there was an Armenian Student Association, and that club now has gone defunct. So, and even within the New York region, there's the NYU Armenian Student Association and Baruch College and Columbia University, but I think a lot of the time if there is, the students aren't maintaining that. So this is part of the reason why I'm doing this research, to really show the practitioners of don't just let this club die. This has so much more of an impact than you think it is. And you can just kind of see that across the board with other cultural clubs, because part of my research has been looking into other cultural clubs, doing some other research on cultural organizations or religious organizations on college campuses and kind of seeing that impact. So really, when there are certain affinity groups just speaking from the Fordham experience, making sure that certain affinity groups, their clubs don't die out, and making sure that we're supporting them because they are cultural, BIPOC identified student clubs. But just because, and I'm not saying that this is what everyone is thinking, but the Armenians, whatever, it's not being given the same attention perhaps as other cultural minorities or serving organizations.
When you say it's at the mercy of the students, you have been a member of an Armenian club at Rutgers or Fordham. My question to you, what is the message you have for these students, the younger generation? What would you like them to do?
I know that in today's world we're so busy, right? Especially, and I understand, I've been there myself, I am there myself. We are so busy, and I think if this is something of importance to you in maintaining your cultural identity, going to the resources that you have available on campus. I work in the Office for Student Involvement at Fordham. We serve 78 plus clubs on our college campus. At the Rose Hill campus, there's over 170. So, there are spaces, there are people who are interested. I'll never forget at one club day, I was checking somebody in and I noticed their last name sounded a little bit Armenian. So, I was like, are you Armenian? They're like, yeah, are you? And I'm like, yes, I am. And the first thing they asked me was if there was an Armenian Student Association on campus. And I had to be like, we don't have one, but you're always welcome to start one. So, kind of putting that onus on students themselves to start up these organizations or maintain these organizations. But there are also so many resources available at your college or university to support you. Again, those administrators are busy. We are also, there's more clubs than we have people to work with them. But, get a time on their calendar, work with them and say this is of importance to you. And I'm sure someone will be able to help you and support you in starting a club or, creating outreach to find people to support you in those endeavors.
In general, when you look at the other organizations, are they doing enough for the youth?
I think it depends on what you mean by enough. So
to keep them at home, to keep them informed, to keep them motivated, to keep them...
I think so, but I think it also ebbs and flows. So if you have, from what I've been seeing on social media, because part of my research has kind of just been following the traction of the local Armenian student associations, if people graduate, then that information gets lost. And so it might be really strong and really connected for a point in time, but then, and I see it with clubs at Fordham that are not just, cultural clubs, but with any club, sometimes it's just this ebb and flow of we're doing really great and we're really strong in our programming, and then people graduate and, especially coming off of COVID, where a lot of that information has gotten lost. We've seen a lot of that, in the work that I do. Sometimes, before COVID, these clubs were really strong and knew what they were doing, and then they graduate, and we had some changes in policies, obviously, because we were doing more virtual programming than in person, and then that information and that understanding of policies and that kind of trickle down of information gets lost.
What kind of activities people of your age group are interested in?
I think a lot of people just want a space for community. And I've seen that. I'm at in the research that I'm doing right now. I have started conducting interviews for my dissertation. So, people just kind of want a safe space to hang out in and kind of connect with people who understand. I think being Armenian is such a unique cultural experience, and I think people don't always understand that. So I think just having people who understand you and your traditions and your culture and the importance of the culture to you and your identity. I think yes, you can have a big Armenian night and there's dancing and everything, but sometimes you just want to use the example of someone that I interviewed of just like having a kebab night and being able to hang out and like eat kebab, and sometimes it's as simple as that. It doesn't have to be necessarily like a big, Armenian halwa.
From kebab they move to cigars, and from cigars they move to whatever. But my is there anything, and we spoke about this during the break, is there anything in the community you would want changed or you want improved?
I would love to see just more cohesion, and I know Vartan, you were laughing at me before, but I would love to see more cohesion and kind of everyone, rallying together. And I know, I will say that frankly I'm not affiliated with any organization right now, but growing up, I know some people who were involved in AYF wouldn't go to HBU events or vice versa, and it's kind of like, from my perspective, and maybe I'm not even thinking this way, it's, we're all Armenian. We're all connected by, and I know we have our differences, we have our different political affiliations, you might be, of different, different cultural identities within, kind of the Armenian identity, but I would just love to see everyone kind of just come together. And, from what I saw during the wars in 2020, I would be on these Zoom calls and, everyone is rightfully so just like rallying and very passionate and very emotional, but sometimes the listening piece would get lost and everyone thinks their opinion is right, and not saying anyone is wrong and that everyone's right, but just kind of that more cohesion in the Armenian community from my perspective.
The best answer I had to this situation is somebody said we all know we have to agree, but we don't know who has to do the agreeing. We all have to agree, but who has to do the agreeing? But whatever it is, we are a diaspora, we are a people with only 110 years history, because honestly, Armenian history, as much as we go back into the centuries, we are and have to focus on after the genocide and the advancement we have made. We are really a people, we're very successful. Obviously we have problems, but as many people agree, many times Armenians work with their heart as opposed to their head, and that could cause a problem, because I would love Armenia, I would like to do anything Armenian, and there are different calls. We are still not sure what is our role within the relationship with Armenia.
Right.
Every single day there is a new development. When the Artsakh war broke up, every single Armenian was for Artsakh, supporting Artsakh, sending whatever they could to Artsakh. Then we lost Artsakh, there was the wave came the other way. And now we still are not very sure where we stand. But I think diaspora, as some people are claiming, diaspora is here to stay for a longer time than we realize.
Yes.
And we better shape up and do what has to be done to secure the diaspora. A strong diaspora could make a big difference.
Absolutely.
To a strong Armenia. And somebody also said, it's like a bird with two wings. One wing is diaspora, the other wing is Armenia. So far I have not seen a bird that flies with only one wing. So we have to bring these ideas together, and we'll come with a new generation that is more educated, that is more knowledgeable, that is more participating, more cultured, more, and people like you who can make a big difference.
Thank you.
Anything else in closing?
I think that's it. I'm really excited. I have to say, doing this research, I kind of wasn't sure what the reaction would be. I wasn't sure if anyone would.
Happy then?
I have to say I'm very pleased, and it kind of is a good reassuring feeling of, people that I've spoken to in my, I've done a couple of interviews so far and collecting data for my research, and every participant I've spoken to have been like, when are you publishing this? Can I read it? Can you send it to me? Can you keep in touch? So just seeing that excitement from the community has just been reassuring and feeling like you're doing something right.
So let me ask you, when will this be done? When will you read this?
So my super duper ambitious goal is to have everything done by the end of the fall semester. This fall semester. My goal is to graduate in May 2025. So it could be anytime between, I would say, December February 2024 until about April 2025, somewhere in that.
So next time you visit us, you'll be Dr. Melissa Gazal.
Yes, hopefully.
That sounds good.
It's a good feeling.
Congratulations.